As the new Piggy character-focused chapter unfolds, we find ourselves captivated by the complex character of Barney, where we finally uncover what really happened after we left her at the metro in Book 1. And with tons of new evidence from the Decay chapter, we manage to learn about her origins, her connection to the infection, and the true cause of her death. But as we piece all the information together, it becomes clear that the truth is far from simple. So today, we're diving deeper into the hidden secrets behind her entire journey as we try to understand the fractured pieces of her past and the strange events which led to her demise. Barney grew up in Evalia, one of the 3 continents alongside Lucella and Duffport. Before the infection, she lived with her 2 sisters in a small brick house, one being Burnett, while the other's name remains a mystery. Their home was small and worn down, and despite their poor living conditions, Barney did her best to take care of the sisters. However, everything changed when Barney made a tough decision to leave her sisters behind for a billionaire in Lucella, one that would likely set her path towards financial stability and a promising future. With severe financial struggles and a desperate need to support her siblings, she saw this as her only chance for a better life. But what seemed like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity would ultimately lead to her tragic downfall, dragging her into something far more dangerous than she could imagine, and at the cost of never seeing her sisters again. At that time, Barney's decision to leave her sisters behind for the opportunity in Lucella was influenced by none other than Mr. Poppyseed, or better known as Mr. P. Similar to Barney, Mr. P lived in Evalia before the infection began. He met Mrs. P at a young age and got married years later. During their time together, Mr. P learned about Mrs. P's passion for carnivores, which inspired him to build his own. And over the years, the carnivore sales skyrocketed, turning Mr. P into a billionaire after becoming a popular celebrity in Lucella and allowing him to live a life of luxury, privilege, and abundance. However, the good times didn't last long as Mrs. P was soon diagnosed with a fatal disease called glioma. She was immediately rushed to the hospital where Mr. P was willing to sacrifice his entire wealth just so that his wife could be cured, but sadly, that never happened. Driven by desperation, Mr. P took matters into his own hands and funded a project to find a cure for Mrs. P. Barney was then recruited alongside Sheepy, Badgie, and a few other researchers to find a solution, no matter the cost or ethical boundaries they had to cross. Just as the supposed cure was ready to be tested, the doctors saw a critical flaw and strongly advised Mr. P to not proceed with the test. But unwilling to accept another failure, he ignored their warnings and insisted on proceeding, believing that it was the only hope to save his wife. The Piggy family was then selected as test subjects and showed initial positive reactions after taking the cure. When Mr. P received this news, he immediately gave the cure to Mrs. P without hesitation. But within days, those who had taken substance 128 turned into violent and uncontrollable creatures, and Mrs. P was no exception. In the end, Mr. P was forced to watch the woman he loved slip away as he chose to set her free rather than end her life. He stood helpless, burdened by the crushing reality that in his desperate attempt to save her, he had unleashed a nightmare beyond control. Many years later, the military tried to track down Mrs. P, but failed to do so as her whereabouts were still unknown to this day, and that made her patient zero in the outbreak, marking the starting point of the devastating infection. Perhaps in the future, we will get to see Mrs. P once more in Intercity and finally uncover the ultimate truth behind the infection's origins. Even after the failed attempt to create a cure, Mr. P and Barney still remained friends as they continued to support each other through the crisis. They later went on a rescue mission and a supply run at the school to save a teacher. However, the teacher was already attacked and turned into an infected shortly after they arrived. This forced them to hide for their safety, with Barney hiding in the surveillance room and Mr. P in the sewers. Months later, we arrived outside the school after leaving Doggy behind in the forest, where he was sabotaged into drinking substance 128 by Pony during his sleep. He then received a distress signal from Mr. P on the walkie-talkie, followed his instructions to find Barney, and met with Mr. P in the sewers. However, we started to feel unwell and fainted. While we were still under anesthesia, Barney had been helping Mr. P and Barry in developing more potential cures. However, things took a dark turn when the hospital was raided by the infected and Barney was tragically attacked. With limited time and resources, Mr. P gave Barney one of the rushed cures, hoping that it might save her. But deep down, he already knew the cure wouldn't work and that Barney would still be infected anyways. His true intention wasn't to save Barney, but to buy himself time so that he can make his escape plan to the outpost while Barney and us are still in the hospital. When we woke up, we found that Barry was already infected, and by the time we reached the rooftop, Mr. P had already abandoned us, claiming that it was for the greater good. At that moment, Barney already figured out the truth that the potion she just drank was similar to substance 128 and that she would soon be turned into an infected. What we didn't know was that Barney had already begun feeling the effects of the potion, but despite her weakening state, she kept her composure and followed us to the metro, hiding the pain and fear from us. After we power up the metro train that heads for the carnival, Barney finally reveals the truth that she was given Substance 128 and wasn't aware of what it would do to her. Even though we were persistent to have her come with us, she still eventually convinced us to board the train and continue our journey alone. The Decay chapter opening cutscene starts right after we left, where Barney starts having hallucinations of a younger sister Bonnet, which led her to explore the entire railway that's opposite the direction of where we were headed. In her hallucinations, she also sees silhouettes of Mr. P and Shippy with their eyes glowing white. And since their eye pupils were matching with Barney's infected eyes only in this chapter, it could likely mean that whatever Barney sees is based on her distorted reflection of her past memories. While the exact meaning behind the white pupils still remains unconfirmed, there have been theories that any infected with white pupils the past where they made sure everyone around them was safe. This shows that Barney is a selfless and productive character, which explains why she constantly worries about her sisters even though she has likely already ensured their safety before leaving them. However, Barney's story was left with an ambiguous and tragic plot. In her final moments where she was overwhelmed with hallucinations, she mistook Harry's friend, Mari, for an infected and shot him, just like how the infected attack us in the other Piggy chapters because they think we are the infected. And since Henry only appeared after Barney became fully infected, it turned into a misunderstanding and she was shot by Henry in self-defense. This explains that the appearance of the ghost Barney in the outpost and plant, as well as her split present in the Book 2 trailer, might have already hinted that she was never meant to survive in this timeline. However, given the existence of alternate events such as the survivor and savior endings in Book 2, there is a high possibility that another chain of events in Book 1 could have allowed Barney to survive the infection. So, what will happen to Barney's fate in Decay Part 2? We already know that we will see the Twisted Rabbit once again, and the claws scene in the Delirium teaser matched those from the previous chase scenes we had in Part 1. But with the infection deeply tied to illusions and mind manipulation, could Theo attempt to invade Barney's mind to recruit her for his cunning motives? And even if she somehow survives the gunshot, will she be able to hold onto her consciousness? There's still so much that we need to know, and Delirium could reveal shocking twists that will change everything we thought we knew about Barney. I will be making more of these theory videos, so make sure to like and subscribe so that you will never miss out on the latest updates. Feel free to let me know your theories and predictions in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.